March 24th, 2025 meeting of the North Attleboro Town Council. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. We have a not that long of an agenda tonight, I don't believe.
I'm jinxing this.
Knock on wood. So let's kick things off with the approval of the minutes, March 10th.
I make a motion to approve Town Council minutes, March 10th, 2025.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Simmons, a second from Mr. Costello. 8 of us here tonight. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes 8-0. Meeting minutes are passed. Next up, we're going to go to Town Councilor community announcements. First on the agenda for that is Marsha Goldstein, Keep North Attleboro Beautiful cleanup event. Please welcome.
Thanks. Just like this?
Just like that, or if you want to
Okay. My name is Marsha Goldstein. I'm a former executive director of Keep North Attleboro Beautiful. I stepped down. However, I'm still on the board, and I have an absolutely terrific, capable, hardworking board who's picking up the slack, although I still am doing some tasks. I wanted to tell you that our latest litter cleanup is on Saturday, May 3rd. And it's the usual format. We have a pizza party afterward, and on April 14th and, 17th and 24th, we will be distributing our supplies in the lobby of the town hall. And it's 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and thanks to our wonderful town managers, they've allowed us to continue our distribution schedule, even though the town hall closes earlier. So again, it's April 17th and 24th, 5 to 7. And I encourage all of you to register on our website. I don't know how many of you have registered before, but it's something that is gratifying. We appreciate it. You will feel terrific. And please register and join us on April 17th to pick up your supplies. Otherwise, supplies need to be picked up at the high school the day of, which can be inconvenient depending on how many people are there. So we encourage you to please come to the town hall on those 2 dates.
Thank you.
And I just want to know if you're becoming more litter aware as the time goes on. I certainly hope you are. I take 2 poop bags when I walk my dog, and one is for obvious reasons, and the other one is for litter. And it's still around, and it still makes me crazy. So I just hope that you are becoming more and more aware of the litter problem. And we can all join in. If you see it, pick it up. That would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Now, what is the website where folks can register?
KeepNABeautiful.com.
KeepNABeautiful.com. And if someone doesn't sign up online, can they show up on April 17th to the 24th and register in Town Hall as well?
Sure.
All right, good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
I think this year's shirt color was not picked out by me. It's not a real bright one, but they thought it was gender neutral. So I won't even tell you. You'll have to come and find out what it is.
All right.
Anybody noticed any litter lately? You see litter? Is it something you're aware of on the sidewalks, on the curbs, it's not good. I'm not even sure if we're reaching people to change their habits. But it's usually just the bad apples that throw stuff out the car window after a takeout place. That's what I usually see. And then there's always the nips.
Yeah.
Those are nuts.
Yeah, of course.
Impossible to control, and they're not recyclable. Not enough plastic. Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Marsha.
All right, are there any other councilor announcements? Mr. Gould.
Yes, Tuesday, April 1st is the last day for seniors and veterans to file for tax exemptions this year. Thank you.
Any other councilor comments? Oh, geez, guys. Just so folks remember, there's an election next Tuesday. In case you didn't know, I thought someone was gonna mention that, but I wrote it down just in case. April 1st, next Tuesday, at the high school, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. A lot of races on that day, so please make sure to vote. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is resident and community comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the council this evening? Mr. Donahue, step forward, please.
Brevity's not my friend.
You're welcome to have a seat or stand per your
No, I'll sit.
preference. How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
I'll try not to play with the microphone. Okay. John Donahue, Chairman of the Charter Review Committee. I first want to talk about going a little bit back to serving on the RTM first, and it'll kind of play into what I'm going to say later on. One of the main things about serving on the RTM in North Attleboro way back when, and I served 25 years on that, is that whenever anyone came up to the microphone, they had to be respectful of other people who had a different view of what they had, okay? And there was no way that the moderator would allow you to take apart another resident or another person on town meeting floor. And it was almost like a code of honor. Unfortunately, with the council meeting 2 weeks ago, that sure went out the window fast. During the discussion of North TV, and just to let you know, I'm not going to discuss the merit of the measure about North TV. I felt that a town employee, Taylor O'Neill, was treated very rudely that night. And there's no way that any employee of the town should be treated that way. Taylor O'Neill does a very good job for the town, and she reports to Mike Borg. She doesn't report to taxpayers or to the council. So in the future, maybe something should be put in the councilor rules about being respectful of people who come and speak at the council. It's not something that I would like to see continue, where a person comes and it is doing a presentation and is taken apart. It is absolutely unbelievable. I never thought I would see it in this town. Now, the other thing, the word that was bandied about is the word propaganda. I never thought I would ever hear the word propaganda in a North Attleboro meeting at all, but yet there it was. So I have a definition of propaganda. The systematic dissemination of information, especially in a biased or misleading way, in order to promote a political cause or a point of view. Well, the last time I looked, we're not in Russia, and we're certainly not Nazi Germany. What I will say is that I am eternally grateful for North TV to be able to broadcast the information that the townspeople need to know. It just sickens me that that word was brought up in a town council meeting. I see more propaganda on social media web pages in this town than I care to even think about. So when you're going to discuss something in a council meeting, be careful on the words that you choose, okay? Because it's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the council this evening? All right, we'll move on. So I'm going to take a couple things out of order here. First off, I'm going to jump to subcommittees. The School Building Committee, MSBA update. We're going to get an update from that team on the current education plan and the deficiencies in the current building in terms of being able to deliver it, I believe. So I'd welcome Dr. Antonucci, or, oh, here we go, Michelle McEwen and the team, Peter Haviland. Door, welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Do you need a microphone up there?
I have one. It's hidden, but I have one.
Okay, it's up here. Good job.
Okay. Well, thank you. My name is Brad
If
Dorr.
I
I'm
may-
principal.
Welcome again.
Just have a point of order,
Yeah.
just briefly. Just happy that they're here. I just couldn't tell from the agenda that there'd be a presentation. If in the future, we could like break it out so we could prepare. I mean, I would probably have questions and have maybe a more meaningful dialogue I mean, I'm sure they'll be coming again between now and June. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, School Building Committee, but yeah, thank you for that. That could have been an email, but yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Again, my name is Brad Dorr. I'm principal with Dorr and Whittier Architects, the architect for the proposed school project. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about, some of the deficiencies that you have with your building. And I'm going to talk about it in terms of the physical deficiencies at the physical plant itself, if you will, the building. And then I'm going to turn it over to Pete and Michelle, and they're going to discuss a little bit about how those deficiencies impact the education, right, that's delivered as part of that. So you can see in this opening slide, the question of what's wrong with the building. We could spend a lot of time just looking at that picture and kind of starting to parse out what some of those things are. But what I'd like to do is just talk about some things here. And then we're going to have a little bit of a slideshow after this, which hopefully the pictures, right, maybe a little bit of commentary will help to describe that even better.
Sounds good.
So your building was built right around early 1970s, 1973, I believe. So it is 50 plus. And when you start getting that, depending upon, how buildings were constructed, there's a lot of wear and tear. You have 1,100 students, right, that are going through that facility every day. And it has an impact. And one thing that I can say is that even though I wasn't old enough to be participating in design back in 1973, pretty old, but not that old, is that it wasn't a great time. We look at some of the things, right, that were put together, how buildings were put together. There were some things that may have been, nouveau, but, over time, it just didn't work out as well as it probably people would have liked. And, there's always an analogy in the auto industry. And if you think, you go back to some of the cars that were in the 1970s, some of them, they kind of look cool, particularly today, they're kind of retro. But they didn't work that well. And I think that that's something that we can also transfer over to other buildings. In terms of the systems, right, those systems are 50 plus years old for the most part. And even back then, they wouldn't be expected to last for 50 plus years. So this building has actually been pretty well maintained. I know there's some people that have questioned that, but I have to say the building has been pretty well maintained. And, again, 50 years is a long time. stuff starts to wear out and stuff needs to be replaced. And as you remember from some of the past presentations that we had, there is a process here with MSBA is to look at all the different aspects. So we looked at kind of a do-nothing option, if you will, so really targeted, just fix it up type stuff. And then we looked at an add renos, and then we looked at new construction. And when you look at this, right, we're talking about all of these things led us to the result, okay, with the option that we presented to you before. So things like the systems are outdated, building technology has changed. We didn't have computers 50 years ago, right? There was nothing there. We didn't need data lines all over the building. We didn't need as many outlets. And then when we talk about building codes, right, we're at the point right now where we're actually, a new building code has just come out, the 10th edition, and all of those things have changed how we put together buildings today and how we design them for the future. And it's really important also to know that the way that the code is set up, to the extent that you're actually trying to do some of these really smaller targeted interventions, overall, the building code requires you, once you get to a certain threshold, that you have to bring the whole building up to code. So if you go, for example, over 30% of the assessed value, the whole building needs to be brought up to code with respect to accessibility, which is the next point there. You've done a number of things at the building in terms of helping to improve accessibility. But as a designer, right, there's no such thing as kind of accessible or partially accessible. It's either accessible or it's not. And so while some of these things have improved people's access, it still is non-compliant, and those things all need to be addressed. When we talk about overall efficiency of the building, the 1970s again, the oil embargo, fuel was cheap, could go ahead and use lots of those. You were actually a little ahead of the game here with this building. This is an all-electric building, so you were way ahead of your time because that's how we're building buildings today. But, right, the building is not efficient, right? The windows, right, are old. It's not just like if you put in new windows, the code demands that you actually have a very tight envelope today. And that's not what you're dealing with right there. Natural light in windows, we've talked a little bit about this before. There's lots of studies out there that show that learning is improved if you actually have natural light and views coming out of a window. And I've got a slide that'll speak to that. And then safety and security. Again, 50 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was a very different situation to where we are today. Right? We don't need to get into that, but we're taking and making steps, right, to make this building a much more secure environment for the students and the staff to be there every day. And then finally, right, we'll talk a little bit, and these guys will get into it more. The building is undersized. In the aggregate, your building right now is about 175,000 square feet. The new building, according to the MSBA guidelines, right, in the program that was really applauded by the MSBA, is 225,000 square feet. So you're 50,000 square feet off as compared to what the MSBA guidelines and really a more modern, delivery of education today. And then some of them are not right-sized, and we've got a slide to that end as well. So pictures speak 1,000 words, and I'm already over my 1,000-word limit. But you can see right here, this is just a ventilation system, right? And you can just see what an old HVAC versus a new HVAC looks like. And you have unit ventilators in the majority of your classrooms, which we don't use unit ventilators anymore. It's hard to even find parts for unit ventilators anymore. And there's lots of good reasons for that, from efficiency to acoustical to moving the right type of air. So really, again, we're trying to go and get into the 21st century here with an updated system. This slide here, what it's showing us is if the slides are colored blue, or if the spaces are colored blue, you actually have a window or access to a view. As you can see, right, it's not that much. You have a large number of spaces where you just have no views to the outside. And that's really just not a great thing. One of the things that we learned from students, from staff, and even from community members was that, not having windows is just a tough place to be for a significant period of time every day. So, that's something that we're going to correct. It's actually something that's required, as part of the program that we're putting together both with MSBA and with LEED. This is just a couple of images of your school on the left in a modern school that we just completed on the right, you can see that it's just very different with windows there. Not only that, but you can look in, you can see some of the other things that I've spoken to just in terms of the lighting system. You can look at the furniture that's there. That furniture there is all movable, so it's able to be moved and brought together to have hands-on learning environments. So there's just a lot of things, again, 50 years ago versus today. This is speaking to undersized, and the basic takeaway from this slide is if it's red, it's not in accordance with MSBA guidelines. So all of those spaces that are red are undersized. The spaces that are green, you actually have more than you actually would need. And then if they're yellow, they're within that 10% sweet spot, high or low. But you can see, you guys have an awful lot of red. And then finally, I spoke to this in terms of the overall size of the building. These are modular units, and perhaps not everybody in town knows that you actually even have these. So these were over 20 years old, and you're actually at a point where you're fixing them up. These are temporary solutions, not long-term solutions. So you've had overcrowding here for a very long time, and these are things that are not supported by the MSBA program. And it's something that, really is representative of an overcrowding situation. This is one of the 9 criteria when you went in and got into the statement of interest process. This is probably one of the most important items out there from an MSBA perspective, because they're always trying to go and fix overcrowding. That's a big one because you can't deliver education without that. And then structural, that's probably a number 2. We don't want the buildings to fall down. But this is representative. If you have modulars, you're overcrowded. And then finally, this is just talking about right-sizing things. You can see on the left, this is your cafeteria space. There's a number of things that are going on in there, from accessibility to lighting to just, how it looks and feels. So the building on the right, again, is another building that we just recently completed. You can see that, not only is it a little brighter, a little airier, but those spaces can be used for community space. There's lots of opportunities to do different things in there. And then distributed dining there are actually 5 little discrete dining areas on the building on the right. And that allows, when you think about when you go to restaurants, right? You go to restaurants for reasons you like this one, you don't like this one. I would argue that people like the restaurant on the right. So with that, I think I'm done, and I'm going to turn it over to Pete and Michelle.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, so good evening and welcome. Tonight I want to provide some insight and perspective on this project as far as our work is concerned. And perhaps talk about some things that might not have been publicly discussed on behalf of the building committee or any of the district or school leaders, but that I think is important to set up Michelle's presentation, which is really going to illustrate and articulate the importance of some of the critical elements of our educational vision. So, as principal of North Attleboro High School, my role is to responsibly advocate for everything our school needs to support and educate all students to their fullest potential. We need to prepare them not just for the world as it exists today, but the world that they will enter as adults. The world has changed dramatically since our high school was built over 50 years ago. Hospitals, cars, technology, college, the workplace, everything has evolved. And as we prepare students for life in 2073, we simply cannot do it effectively in a 1973 building. Our current facility, despite our best maintenance efforts, daily efforts to keep that building and campus up to shape, is insufficient, inadequate, and out of compliance with today's educational standards. Take a look at what's happening around us. Attleboro is thriving with their new high school. Bishop Feehan just opened their Innovation and Arts Center with new spaces for band, theater, robotics, and technology. Tri-County recently broke ground on a state-of-the-art facility. It's a sign that these schools are reimagining their educational objectives and meeting the needs of their communities. And without action, North Attleboro could easily fall behind, affecting where people choose to live and send their children to school. Yes, this project is a significant investment. Nobody denies that. But let's be clear about what that investment will deliver. You've seen renderings that look different from any other building in town. That's because the design is impressive, and with it, we have a unique opportunity to create a high-performing, forward-thinking high school that will serve generations of students. This building design is not about extravagance. It's about innovation, efficiency, and longevity. It will be a source of pride for our town not just because of how it looks, but because of what it stands for, a commitment to providing students with the best possible education in a modern, well-designed space that reflects our community's values. Where the Little Red Schoolhouse was heated by a wood stove, our new building will be heated using hundreds of geothermal wells drilled 800 feet deep into the campus grounds. The design is perfectly aligned with our town's personality and culture. It's modest, it's focused on excellence, and built to be a source of pride for generations to come. An interesting note is that when we were accepted into the MSB program, we created an educational vision that would benefit all North Attleboro students. And I'm proud to share that our plan has been recognized as the best educational vision in the history of the MSBA program. And in fact, because of our educational plan, the most experienced and long-tenured member of the MSBA Review Board stated publicly that as someone who sells real estate, and because of our educational vision plan, they highly recommend North Attleboro as a priority destination for families looking for a community in which to raise and educate their children. So our educational vision for all students is comprehensive, but it's not excessive. It builds on the core rigorous teaching and learning culture that has characterized our educational excellence for decades. Our plan balances traditional academic excellence with practical hands-on learning approaches designed to prepare students for real-world success. When students understand why they're learning something, they're much more engaged, successful, and ready to compete for post-secondary college and career lives. Michelle is going to talk a little bit about the elements and components of our educational vision.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us again. My pleasure to be back in front of you talking about the education plan. I think what Pete talked about, our educational excellence, I think as a community member and as a former student who went through the school system, I have such great pride in my education that I received here. And when we conducted these forums, we heard over and over again from people of all ages how their education here in North Attleboro impacted them. People talked so much about hands-on learning, being prepared for college, thinking about the careers of the future. No matter what age span they went through, they felt like they were prepared. When we wrote this education plan, we really thought about where are we going in the future. We looked carefully at what do our students need to be successful in college and in the careers of the future. So at the heart of this vision and at the heart of our education plan is something called HUBs. HUBs is just a term for hands-on learning spaces that help students be ready for careers in the future. What we want to do, and what this plan does, is it takes all of those rigorous academics that are in our program of studies now. So you're still going to see literature, mathematics, high-level AP courses, biology, chemistry, robotics, all of those things that we believe are part of the core academics are still going to exist. But what we need and what we're finding when we're hearing about people who are hiring in the workforce and people who are getting accepted at colleges is that students need the opportunity to take what they learn in their traditional classroom settings and actually practice, actually have hands-on learning, actually have times to collaborate, to solve problems, to think about how the things apply in the real world. So the hub spaces do that for us. And tonight, I'm just going to give you a really quick synopsis of a few of the hubs. We can come back, we can give you a lot more detail, but I thought it was just important for you to hear what does our current environment look like at the high school, why this isn't happening to its full potential right now. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Fabrication Hub. You've heard me talk about something called the Innovation Pathway before. We already have this at our high school. The Innovation Pathway is a program that was initially funded through grant funding at the state level. We took courses in math, in science, in art, in computer and design, and we thought about what does our own community need. We need a connection to manufacturing, and that's exactly what the Fabrication Hub does. It provides students with opportunities to take courses that have to do with engineering, that have to do with design, and then what they learn in the classrooms, they can apply. What I'm going to show you is this is our current Fabrication Hub. I talked about it last time. We converted an old custodial loading dock because it was the only space left in this building. and we squeezed in as much equipment from the grant as we possibly could on this loading dock. This is one of our most popular and sought-after classes. We can only put 12 students in that room. And what happens is, this is on the first floor in the back of the building. When students need to use certain equipment, including a saw to saw plywood, they walk out these red doors and they go outside because there's not enough room in that hub to do the manufacturing work that they're learning about. In addition, our science classrooms, because our lab spaces are upstairs at the other end of the building, is a space where we're teaching the kids some of these concepts. So if at any given time, we want to have students working on a project, but also being instructing students, we can't split the class because we can't have the teacher in two different places across the school from one another. The new design creates a hub that puts several spaces together. It would have a classroom instructional space. It has adequate space for building and work tables. It has spaces for collaboration, and then it has glass so that you can look through to, say, a clean design space versus a space where they're actually doing the building and the manufacturing. That's what we need for our students. Next one is the communication hub. Right now, all fields of communication are just thriving. Marketing, advertising, broadcasting. This is an area where so many students are excited to learn. They're taking what they're learning in their English classes, public speaking, thinking in terms of marketing and design work. They're taking their art classes. We're taking theater. And we're squeezing these classes into really small spaces that are also limited. So I put the TV studio up, but know that again, it's going to be a hub. It's going to have a communication space. It's going to have space for drama to happen. It's going to have lighted open spaces where students who are interested in the arts can actually pursue the arts. And so right now, again, we took an old space in the back of the building and repurposed it. We squeezed 3 tables in to a really small space. And so this is the space where students would be instructed. Probably got about 10 students we can fit in there. Then when the students actually do their morning show or any of their presentations, they have to move all of these spaces out of the way, go on to the filming area, and actually film from a very limited small space. We also have an old hallway with a glass window in it that we use as a recording booth and a sound studio. It's so limited that we probably can fit 2 students in there at a time. A modern setup for this is a space that's dedicated to presenting, to broadcasting, to videotaping. Also, part of this is going to be a listening and learning lab. So students would have a space where world language students who are learning to speak Spanish for the first time can listen and speak and communicate with other people. There's opportunities for students in drama to actually write their own scripts and practice and perform as part of a class. So these classes are already in our program of studies. We're just limited in the amount of space and the number of students who can access these. The third one I want to talk to you about, we created something called an environmental hub. If you know anything about North Attleboro High School, we've always had an incredible science program. Students are competing in science fairs and winning awards for the type of work that they're doing. The research that they're doing at the high school level is allowing them to go to some of the top colleges in the country. Right now, our environmental hub is not a hub at all. We have a few science classrooms, and again, it's very limited. We actually have a tiny little greenhouse. I would encourage you to come visit this building because I don't know if anyone even knows it exists. It is off of one of the science classrooms on the 2nd floor. It's not really adequate for doing work in biology because there's no connection to the outside. So you talk about environmental learning, and yet the students are on the 2nd floor of the building in a space that has no windows and very limited ability to connect with the outdoors. So a new space would give us a dedicated outdoor learning space. It would give us a connection to lab spaces so that several labs would work together in collaboration and be able to access other classes around the building. It would allow us to have advanced lab equipment, which we can't fit in the building right now. Nothing large can go upstairs and fit in these classrooms because we're limited with what can fit in those rooms and down the hallways. So if you think about fish tanks, terrariums, being able to study aquatics, flexible outdoor space for students to work on projects, for students to set up a lab that's going to go over several months where they're going to observe it over time. There's nowhere for us to do that work right now. So yes, we have science lab space, and we're using every bit of that space that we can, but a modern lab space allows for students to work at tables collaboratively together. It allows us to store equipment safely, and it allows us to have access to the outside so that we can really tap into that environmental piece that so many students are interested in. Finally, we've been talking a lot about all of the workforce is looking for people who can think critically, solve problems, collaborate, and communicate. Right now, when you walk into North Attleboro High School, you'll see classrooms that are dark, they are small, and they are each separate learning spaces with doors that close from the hallway. There's nowhere in that building, very few places where students can get together and work collaboratively on a project. Very often when a teacher says, you know what, I want some students to work together on something, they send them out into the hallway and they're sitting on that floor. And that's the only space that we have for students that are near our classrooms. Our new model has clusters of classrooms together. It promotes collaborative learning. So these classrooms are separate, but they walk out into a collaborative learning space. So we can teach students separately if we need to, but then we can open up to a space where students can collaborate and work together. We know that that type of learning promotes success for students in school and when they go into the careers of the future. So we are working really hard to change that model, and no matter what we write in an education plan, there's nowhere for us to do that work at our current high school. Lastly, one of the major interests of our high school students is business. We know that it's one of the biggest fields once students are leaving college. And you'd heard me talk about this last time. We're looking to make a business pathway. We have entrepreneurship classes, we have art classes, we have design classes, we have classes on marketing and communication. We have the teachers to teach these things, but we don't have a place for students to do this work. So they're doing it in isolation and then trying to find times in small places where they can make connections. Next year, for the first time, we're offering an art class where students will design a product. They'll learn how to market the product. They'll actually go through the design iteration process, and we've built our first business partnership where we have a business that's going to help us produce those items that the students create. They're going to write the business plan. They're going to present it as if they are real business people. They are going to compete for the market with the business that we have built a partnership with. And then we're going to have an actual school store in the new building where these things will be for sale. And so students will learn that full business process that right now has been limited because we're limited to space and we're limited with the ability to offer those programs because we just can't fit anything else in our building. So I hope that answers the deficiency question that people have been asking, and I would encourage you to come on a tour of the building. We're offering tours. Come see it for yourself. Hear from students what their experience has been like in the building, because it's just so eye-opening when you take the time to look at it. And now I'll turn it back over to Principal Haviland to wrap up. Thanks so much.
I think we're good. I think you just said it all. Well, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, and I think that these pieces here with the environments that we're going to try to build in the school, as a community, we can't just offer education. We have to make informed decisions to create the right kind of education, because we have the obligation to make sure our kids are ready, able, and willing to pursue the experiences that they're going to face after high school. This project, this design is the best thing that this community can do as far as education for our students. It's our responsibility. That was our plan and objective for being here tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great presentation. We appreciate it. Very educational. Not bad. All right, let's, I'll move on to the town manager report, and then I'm going to take the North TV out of order after that.
Council President, members of the council, thank you. Just a couple items for you this evening. One, just a reminder of the tabletop exercise coming up this Thursday on the 27th. Invites are out on that. And the comms arena did conduct, and it was published, I think it came out today, at least on the online version, an interview with the North Star reporter regarding our shift from Blue Cross Blue Shield for our retirees to Aetna. It was a good piece. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. We do have a rabies vaccine clinic coming up on Saturday, April 5th. Check out the website. You can see the prices here in the report as well. Get more information, but also it's a great way, vet bills are not going down in cost either, and this is actually very affordable. You heard from Marcia this evening. Thank you. I had it in my report to talk about it as well.
I just wanted to say, I forgot to mention the support of DPW.
DPW, a great arm on that. We appreciate all their help there, too. Thank you, Marcia, for that. I did receive an invite from a developer who's coming and looking at the potential for a sports complex development here in town. It's very initial, still in the funding stages, but it looks very promising. We're meeting again this Friday. I'll keep you posted on that as it goes forward, but it looks to be a very promising idea. Okay. Did hold our normal school building committee meeting, and you heard updates on that as we've done this presentation from the schools tonight. Thank you for that. Health insurance. Did meet with the IAC, which is our insurance advisory committee that provides representation from all of our bargaining units in the town. Talked about current rates, where we're at. And we did hold a retiree meeting on the 18th of March. That was our third meeting with retirees as we begin this transition to the Aetna program. That seems to be going very well. We'll keep you updated on that as that happens, but on effective 1 April, all of our Medicare-eligible retirees will be shifting to the Aetna plan. Did hold a opioid task force meeting. We held a meeting with our key folks, including schools and local and our departments that have a hand in this, right? We're developing and formulating our strategy. There are a couple things that we're working on. There will be a survey that goes out coming up on the 2nd of April, so look for that. It'll touch on a couple of items that will provide us some key information where we might be able to focus some of these funds. Just a quick update on our free vocational counseling that's done by the Board of Health, and Stephen Bedros, who came in and talked to you before. We've had 12 residents come in and take advantage of those services. So if you are looking for an opportunity, if you're underemployed or unemployed, please reach out and see if we can help. Town election, I did have it in my notes, Council President, scheduled for the 1st of April. I will say, when you walked in, you did see the ballot machines. They went undergone testing today, and making sure that they're ready for the election on the 1st of April. Those are locked and secured, so if you did walk in, nobody can do anything to those out in the hallway. But they'll finish up that testing tomorrow, and we'll be ready for the election on the 1st of April. Again, you talked about the real estate exemptions. That was mentioned earlier by Councilor Gould. Thank you. Just reinforcing that. April 1st is the deadline for that. Compost Center reopens on Friday, April 4th. Hours are posted there. Great opportunity there to get some compost or drop off your materials. Dog license, the clerk would like me to tell you, going well. But if you have your dogs, they do need a license. Please reach out and see us, and we'll make sure that gets taken care of. Recycling Center is still issuing the new stickers, and the bulky mail pickup is underway, so that's going well as well. We are scheduled to do the final budget presentation on the 14th of April. We'll have the department heads is here, but that's your next town council meeting on April 14th. S&P came to North Attleboro, and we asked for an insight visit with the S&P Global Ratings team. Had a fantastic visit with them. We were able to sit and talk about all of our financial aspects of the town, everything that we've been working on, what the financial health of the town is, and we then took them on a tour and showed them all the great things that were happening here in North Attleboro, everything from our PFAS mitigation system and all the stuff and progress that we've made on PFAS, to the high school, where we showed them the new turf field, well, the turf field and the stadium. We showed them in AED, talked about how we work together with a municipal partner, and talked about future development here in North Attleboro. Just not forecasting anything, but the last comment that was made by the team that visited us was this was the strongest financially that they'd ever seen the town in. We did hold a monthly finance meeting here in town, looking at where we're at progressing. No issues. We'll provide that feedback to the town council as well. But we, right now, are on track to wrap up this budget without any major issues, less healthcare. So just want to say congratulations to Nicole Pelletier. Was chosen by the Rotary Club for North Attleboro Plainville as the outstanding public employee, and to our own Julie Holt, Chair of the Council on Aging, was for outstanding senior. So congrats to them. I think they're getting their kudos and recognition tonight. So I know Scott Smith, the Veterans Agent, is over there doing that. And you see employment opportunities here as well. That concludes my update this evening, pending any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Borg. Are there any questions for Town Manager Borg? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Next item on the agenda. I'm going to take it one more thing out of order, if you'll indulge me, please. So they were in last meeting. So I would like to flip to old business, section 8, item A, measure 2025-50, authorization to repurpose $50,000 from remaining funds for the completed capital improvement projects to fund public relations support from North TV.
Make a motion to approve Measure 2025-050, authorization to repurpose $50,000 from remaining funds from completed capital improvement projects to fund public relations support from North TV.
Second. Motion from Mr. Simmons, second from Ms. St. Pierre. Is there any discussion? Mr. Gould.
Yes. So I was able to speak briefly with North TV and the town manager about this proposal. I was able to obtain clarification on one point. The measure had said, quote, North TV will assist in managing social media accounts, end quote. I was able to clarify that's not any elected officials' accounts being managed, as I was not the only person that read it that way. I did request the North TV contract. I've received that over the weekend. I haven't had a chance to digest it, but I understand this council wants to pass it tonight. So North TV, briefly, as most people here know, is funded through the cable fees, which are approximately $450,000 a year, give or take. And we traditionally vote those over to North TV. I was informed something I didn't know. North TV is an enterprise. Our cable PEG funds are an enterprise fund. I didn't know that. It's different than water sewer, where it's user fees, revenue equals expenses. It was more of an accounting type decision made. I'll try to wrap it up. So the question is, why are we charging fees at all for access? So we're paying $50,000 to have a PR firm, I won't say the other P word, to bring down the paywall. Why? Is that not what we're doing?
What's the other P word?
The paywall?
I didn't know what you meant.
Why don't we just bring the whole paywall down? Why just the government meetings? If we're really a public service, if we're a nonprofit, why are we, wouldn't it be a service to the community to share the sports events, to share the community events, to share all the programming? The user fees are, I think I pay, $3 a month, whatever it is. That's not going to sustain North TV. If we're really a public service, we should take down the whole paywall. And I'd suggest we consider that as part of this contract. I know there were concerns about legal, what we can contract with a nonprofit for. I'd be interested in what procurement process we use to contract it. We look at any other vendors. Those are my thoughts. If anyone's interested in sharing their perspective, that's what I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Simmons, at the last meeting, did you have a chance to give the committees?
We did. Finance Committee reviewed this and passed it unanimously for a positive action at council. Again, user fees for those who have cable and pay cable, you are charged a PEG access fee, which helps fund North TV. if you don't have cable, you don't pay the fee, you don't get the service. It is not a free service. It is tied to those who pay the user fees. This $50,000 is for work that we are hiring North TV to do or help us with. It is separate from that. As a result of this, they did remove the paywall on government programs. However, if they were to remove the paywall for every program and every service that they do, the people would be getting the benefit of something that only those who pay for cable receive. That's the way the system was set up. It has worked efficiently. The value that we receive from North TV for this $50,000 is significantly lower than if we hired out a PR company to do the same services. And it's not public relations they are pushing a certain viewpoint, which is what true public relations does, but they are helping us craft our message just using their information. So they film the meetings, they have people attending the meetings. We are using their video, their clips to help craft our message. And that's what this $50,000 pays for. That's what the Finance Committee found, and it was a unanimous vote to support this measure.
All right, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Is there any additional discussion? All right, I believe I have a motion and a second, Mr. Simmons and Ms. St. Pierre. Without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes
I
8
guess
to...
abstain.
The motion passes 7-0 to 1. Thank you. All right, so now we can get back to the regular schedule of events. We had the town manager report, so the next up on the agenda would be confirmations, Measure 2025-55, confirmation of reappointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Mr. Borg or Mr. Simmons, who has something to read here? Is it you?
We have a measure, Council President, so this evening, so I guess you're going to need an approval.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve Measure 2025-055, confirmation of reappointments to various boards, committees, and commissions.
Second.
All right. We have 4 existing members of boards and commissions that are slightly off. You got 2, one from the Housing Authority and the Elections Commission, right, that are out of cycle. We've been trying to realign all of our board and committee membership to coincide with the fiscal year to 1 July. So you'll see that you have 2 there, that for Landis Hershey and Ernie Sandland. But the 2 that are the Elections Commissioner, those are hard dates working with Pat. Alexandra Colosito would like to be reappointed to the Election Commission. Janine Noble would like to be reappointed to the Housing Authority. Remember, the Housing Authority, we just have a seat on the board, but that's run by the Housing Authority through the Commonwealth, and they have a board that they work with, and we work very closely with them. Landis Hershey would like to re-up for another couple years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then Ernie Sandlin on our Municipal Building Committee. I'd ask for your support this evening. They're not here. They've been before you before, but they are reappointments to these seats, and I'd ask for your support this evening for them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Borg? All right, hearing none, I had a motion from Mr. Simmons, I think a second from Mr. Costello on this to approve. So all those, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Borg.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go through subcommittee reports. Finance Committee.
We met last week to begin discussing senior tax programs and other possible tax relief programs. We have another meeting on
April
2nd. I'll be very tired. We have another meeting on April 2nd.
That's not good scheduling.
And we are hoping to come back to the April 14th Town Council meeting with at least part of it. I don't know that we'll have the whole thing done, but I would like to come back with something that we can move on the 14th after our meeting on the 2nd. It was a good discussion. It was a joint meeting for anyone watching, wondering why there were so many counselors at a subcommittee meeting. It was a joint meeting between the Finance Subcommittee and the
Town council.
whole council, so we could have multiple people show up and have presentations and discussions, and everything went well.
Awesome, glad to hear it. All right, cool, so we'll look forward to that update and the Finance Committee meetings next week and at our next meeting on the 14th. Moving on to economic growth and sustainability.
Nothing at this time.
Bylaw,
Nothing at this time.
school committee representative.
No updates. We already had our update.
Did I skip the rules? Rules.
Nothing at this time.
How could I forget about rules? Communication, public, that we already covered the school building committee update earlier in the meeting. Communication, public participation, and engagement.
Nothing at this time.
Local emergency.
Nothing at this time.
And audit review, there's nothing at this time. All right, we can move on. We already did old business, we're moving on to new business. Approval to withdraw, repurpose, and transfer $1.8 million from capital improvement stabilization to fund health insurance account. Mr. Borg, I'm assuming this is going to Finance Committee.
We're asking for a referral to Finance Committee this evening. We're asking that we move in accordance with the free cash strategy that we proposed to you earlier in the fiscal year, around the November-December timeframe, where we made a deposit of free cash into that. I can tell you that the current trend of the premium to claims ratio is running about 110%. We're forecasting that that budget line will be fully expended sometime late April, early May. Right, almost coincides with our last payment. So we did receive the February numbers, and we are $500,000 short in the current claims to premium ratio, so that was another big month for us. So we're going to ask you to review in Finance Committee. We'll lay out the numbers from the health insurance, where we're at, where we're tracking, and I hope that it improves by the time we get to the end of the year, so I don't have to come back and ask for more.
Thank you. I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion to refer Measure 2025-056 to the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Simmons, a second from Mr. Donovan. Is there any discussion on the referral? Mr. Gould, on the referral?
Yes, this is worse than I thought. I know health insurance is bad. I just didn't realize the budget was this tight. I probably wouldn't have proposed a tax cut earlier. Out of $5 million free cash this year,
We had a motion, the point of order, though, there was a motion, the discussion should be on the motion to refer, not on the measure.
I mean, if you'll indulge me for 10 seconds,
I
Council
will,
President.
I'll indulge.
Out of $5 million free cash, $4 million is plugging up budget holes. This is something we need to look at as we review the budget for structural deficits in this year's budget. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I have a motion to refer, I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, that motion passes 8-0. It is referred to the Finance Committee. So we are done. We're going to move on to the next item, which will be an executive session. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security personnel or devices, e.g. a sting operation. Mr. Simmons is to make the motion. Pat? We're not there yet.
You get to say that.
Well, make it fast. Sorry about that.
I make a motion pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to go into executive session to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security personnel or devices, e.g. sting operations. We will be adjourning from executive session, and we will not be returning to the regular meeting. Thank you.
Roll call vote, right?
Roll call
This
vote.
has to be a roll call vote. Mr. Costello?
Need a second?
Gould? Oh, wait, I need a second, sorry. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
Second from Mr. Bogan, thank you. Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan?
Aye.
Mr. Donovan?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Aye. Justin Parra, yes. Mr. Logan?
Aye.
Ms. St. Pierre?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes 8-0. We are in executive session. We will not be coming back this evening. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Last week, it might have